Yo, what's good? Welcome back to the Heart Zone. I'm the host, McGarren Hart, and we're going to talk some sports. So for today, here's today's agenda. Let's get into it. So first, we have the Pelicans and Clippers who played a play-in game last night. We got news yesterday that Paul George will be out for this game. He had COVID, so he will at least be out this game, maybe there for the future, but there is no future for the Clippers now. They end up falling to the Pelicans. They couldn't stop B.I. They didn't have that primary option to carry them, which they needed in Paul George. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard has been out all year with the ACL tear, so the Clippers had a few things they needed to bounce back from. They weren't able to bounce back from them. B.I. had a great game. Brandon Ingram going for 30 points. C.J. McCollum has been a great addition for them, bringing that extra score next to B.I., where B.I. even said himself he's not getting double-teamed as much. He's getting more open looks, so that was huge trade for the Pelicans. Zion is still out there waiting on Zion to come back. They said Zion wants to play, but they're not ready for Zion to play. They still want to wait it out, make sure he doesn't get re-injured. But once this Pelicans team does get Zion, it's going to be a very, very good team, a very, very good long team with obviously young rookie Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, CJ, Zion, and Valanciunas. So I think the Pelicans have a bright future. Obviously, going into their series with the Suns, I do like the Suns. I feel like the Suns are just more talented. They're longer. With Zion, I felt like it definitely would have been a better series. But when you got Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, and of course Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, you have a very good chance of winning. And they can score at each level. And I don't think the Pelicans were able to keep up scoring with them, as well as play as good as defense as the Suns are able to play. So I got the Suns in that series in about 5 to 6 games. Next, we have the Hawks who played the Cavs last night. The Hawks obviously came out victorious in a game that they were down a lot. Trae Young had to come back, have an amazing second half where he dropped 28 of his 38 points in the second half. Obviously, a huge help that they needed. Some of the role players were able to do their job, hit a few shots, and Atlanta ended up overcoming this Cavs team, which was pretty much a very, very good team. But without Jared Allen being fully healthy, this team is not themselves. They're not as good as they once were to start the season. So they're obviously going to try to have a great offseason. They have a lot of young players who they plan to have back, and they're probably going to bring a little talent in. Kyle Sexton will be back for them, so that'd be great for the Cavs next year. The Hawks obviously moving on to the first round to take on the Miami Heat. That's going to be a very, very tough matchup for the Hawks. Trizzy, I expect to see a lot of double teams. The Heat have amazing defense, so I feel like the Heat are going to end up beating the Hawks this series. They're going to probably take us to 6 games, I would say, but the Heat will end up victorious in the series, I believe. So we got reports that Ben Simmons is targeting a return game 4 to 6. Steve Nash doesn't think that'll happen. Kevin Durant doesn't think that'll happen, but I guess the reporters and Ben Simmons maybe think return to game 4 to 6 is possible. He hasn't been practicing as of now. He hasn't been going through the practices with the Nets, so that's why they're not as optimistic, the players within the Nets organization. But if he's able to return for game 4 to 6, that would be a huge boost for the Nets. They'll obviously get his great defense along with 2 of the greatest scorers of all time, possibly the 2 greatest scorers in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So this team is very much hard to beat. They're probably the best 7 seed that you'll ever see with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. It's hard to outscore them, but if they add a player like Ben Simmons to the mix that'll add that defense, the playmaking that they're missing, they're probably going to be very hard to beat by anybody. Even the great Celtics team that they're playing next round without Rob Williams. This is a very talented Celtics team. They can score at each level as well. This is probably going to be the best series for round 1. So I'm very excited for this series. I could definitely see it going to 7 games. Rob Williams is expected to come back possibly towards the later end of this series, as well as Ben Simmons. So we could see 2 star players return. So probably the best series of round 1. We hear reports that Steph Curry is expected to play in game 1. He has been practicing since Wednesday as a full participant, so the Warriors very much expect him to be back at the perfect time when they plan on taking on the Denver Nuggets in the first round. It's going to be a very tough series and very hard for obviously Steph to come back. He missed the last 12 games with a bone bruise in his foot, but this is Steph Curry. This is a guy who's in the playoffs almost every year of his career, obviously a 3-time champ, so he'll be ready to jump into the playoffs when needed, I believe. And I do like this Warriors team over the Nuggets just because reports are saying that Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray aren't expected back now. They could make a return this playoffs, but I'm sure they're not going to rush them. They're saying Jamal could come back basically whenever he's ready to make that return, but it's obviously harder than you think to just come back from ACL tear, especially coming back in the same arena that you tore your ACL. So they're playing at Chase Center. Jamal tore his ACL in Chase Center. and it's going to be very hard to bounce back from that. MPJ, they said, is behind him in the rehab, so Denver is missing a few pieces that they probably need. Jokic is going to have to do more work. Obviously, the Warriors struggle against defending size, but the Warriors just too top heavy. They have too much talent in Clay, Dre, Steph, Wiggins, and then Looney will do his part. So I do like the Warriors winning this series in about 6 or 7 games. I think it'll be a great series, but with the Nuggets not being healthy enough, I do see the Warriors winning this. Drake believes so as well. He got $200K on the Warriors, so we'll see how that turns out for Drake if that ends up paying off for him. We got Luka out game 1 with a strained calf. This is a huge blow for the Mavericks, for a guy who's been pretty much carrying them all season. He is their only all-star, so trying to replace his production will be very hard. They have Jalen Brunson. They traded for Spencer Dinwiddie to bring another scoring option, so they're still going to have a few options, but they're not going to have Luka, who sets the offense, who gets everybody open looks, who can score at will, who can rebound the ball. So that's going to be a huge blow game 1. I like the Jazz winning game 1, but depending on when Luka gets back, I like the Mavericks in this series. But reports are also saying that Luka may end up missing game 2 as well. So he's probably 50-50 to play in game 2. So if the Mavericks do end up going down 0-2 in this series, that they do have home field advantage, the Jazz may take over the series and win it. But if Luka can work his way back, win a few games, I can see this series going 6-7 for the Mavericks winning, and Luka wins his first round series. We got the T-Wolves versus the Grizzlies next. Obviously, we saw the T-Wolves parade. They were very excited about making the playoffs, led by Patrick Beverley, a guy who's played hard his whole career. And obviously, people are mad about how he reacted, but this is a guy who got traded by the Clippers. They said he was too old, wasn't good enough anymore. They traded him, they got rid of him. Now they at home. Pat Bev's still in the playoffs, so I think he has every right to celebrate, every right to jump on the stairs. It meant something to him. It meant way more to him than it meant to a lot of people, especially being your old team that gave up on you. And this is a guy that made the playoff every single year of his career. This is a T-Wolves team that made 2 playoffs since 2004, so this will end up being their third. Pat Bev was obviously a huge part of that, bringing his culture, the young guys developing, seeing how much talent they have. This is a very talented team. So to go into this matchup with the Grizzlies, it's going to be a great team. Expect a lot of high-flying action, a lot of dunks, a lot of three-pointers, some good defense from the Grizzlies, some great offense from the T-Wolves. So I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. Should be high-scoring, an exciting series. But in the end, the Grizzlies got the playoff experience last year, and they got to take on the Warriors and the Jazz. So I think they're going to be more ready for this environment, especially all the hype that's around this team right now. And getting Ja Morant back. Obviously, the team has won a lot of games when he hasn't played, but when he does play, this is the person you have to take out. So everybody else should be more open to get more open looks, where the Grizzlies should be able to take this series. I say in about six games. It's going to be a tough series. Could go to 7, but I say Grizzlies in 6. Next, we got Giannis and the Bucks versus DeRozan, Levine, and the Bulls. I like the Bucks in this matchup. The Bucks have way too much size that the Bulls just can't match. The Bulls obviously a great scoring team. They want to be a perimeter team. They love to run their guards, but this is a team that you're going against that you're going to need the size to stop Giannis, to contain Giannis, not just let him rim run, get the easy dunks at the rim. So it's going to be a tough series for the Bulls to stop Giannis, along with Drew and Middleton, who they like to score in the paint. Drew likes scoring in the paint. Middleton obviously will score from all 3 levels. Giannis going to score in the paint. He's going to shoot his turnaround mid-range, which he's gotten very much better at. So I do like the Bucks in this series, probably in about 5 to 6 games. The Bulls, they don't have the power forward to stop Giannis. They don't have the center, because Vukovic is more of an offensive weapon. He's not going to be the paint protector that you need to stop a guy like Giannis. So I like the Bucks in this series. The Raptors are taking on the Sixers. This is going to be a very, very tough series. Obviously, you have the Sixers who, since they made the James Harden trade, have been very up and down. You don't know how this is going to work out. They lost some shooters. They lost some defense. So they try to figure it out. Obviously, they have the 1-2 punch, but they have a few other holes that they have to fix. Then you got this young Raptors team. Some guys who's played in the championship. You got some guys who haven't played in the playoffs. So they're going to try to mesh together, win this playoff series. But I think it's going to be a very tough series. This whole first round is probably one of the better first rounds that you'll ever see. So be ready for that. And between the Sixers and Raptors, I like the Sixers just because they have to, because they're older. They have the James Harden and B trade that they made. they have to show that this trade paid off. So I like the Sixers winning this in 6 or 7 games. It's going to be a very, very tough series where the Raptors going to fight their butt off, but I do like the Sixers in the end. That's it for NBA news. To jump into NFL news, we're going to start off with the Cowboys corner, Kelvin Joseph, who was wanted by the police for questioning and involvement of a murder of Cameron Ray, a 20-year-old. So what happened was, apparently Kelvin Joseph and his crew, the YKDV crew, was just out hanging out, and then they end up getting into it with this guy named Cameron Ray and his crew. So they end up fighting or whatever. Cameron Ray's crew was walking away apparently, and Kelvin Joseph, him and his crew were in a black SUV, and one of them pulled up and ended up shooting and killing Cameron Ray. So Kelvin Joseph, his lawyer said, was in the car at the time, but he had nothing to do with the shooting. So we don't know what's going to end up happening there. Obviously, he was involved in it. He wasn't the person who pulled the trigger. So that's the news for the Cowboys. Next, we got Stephon Gilmore, who signed a 2-year, $23 million to go to the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, this is a guy who won Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago on the New England Patriots. So the Colts want to see, of course, they're not going to get that level of production, but if they can get a similar level of production, that's what they're looking for. They just traded one of their top corners at Rocky Ascend for Yannick Ngakoue, so they replaced that corner and they picked up an edge rusher. So this Colts team is ready for football. They look very good. They obviously brought in Matt Ryan to man the quarterback position, and they have Jonathan Taylor in a great run game to make the offense go. So this Colts team is looking very good right now. I like the Gilmore signing. I think he'll do a lot of great things there. And lastly, we got 2 quarterbacks who are going in 2 completely different directions right now. First, we're going to start off with Kyler Murray, whose agent put their offer proposal off the table because the Cardinals were not giving any input back. They were not giving an answer back. They were not giving an offer back. So apparently, Kyler and his agent are done. We also saw the offseason drive where Kyler deleted everything related to the Cardinals off all his social media. And the Cardinals responded by saying everything was okay. Then we hear reports about maybe the front office is saying Kyler wasn't working hard enough. So it's a lot of mixed emotions going on between Kyler and the Cardinals. We don't know if they're going to get a deal done now, but this is one of the very best quarterbacks in the league right now. So you have to pay the man. I can see the Cardinals and Kyler reaching a deal sometime soon because you're not going to be able to replace him easily. So then we got another quarterback, Derek Carr, who went in a completely different direction. He's been playing great for the Raiders. Obviously, he's had a lot of change within his years there. He had a lot of different coaches before John Gruden got there. Then John Gruden gets there and the whole fiasco happens where he's fired because emails that happen. You lose your top receiver, Henry Ruggs, because obviously the accident he got in, now in jail. So Derek Carr has went through a lot. He still ended up putting up 4,800 yards last year, 23 touchdowns, and making the playoffs in a tough AFC West. So Derek Carr gets rewarded not only with the contract, but with the number 1 wide receiver being brought in to pair with Darren Waller. Obviously, they want to keep Josh Jacobs in that run game running. But he gets a 3-year, $121 million deal, which brings his total value to $141 million over 4 years. Because he already had a 1-year, $20 million contract, adding the 3-year, $121 million brings it to 4-year, $141. So obviously, the Raiders wanted to get their franchise quarterback down. They have their whole offense locked in for the future. This Raiders team is looking to be a threat in this AFC West that obviously has been the biggest story of the offseason. So I expect to see a lot of great things there. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you guys for watching. I'm McGarren Hart, and this is Heart Zone. I'm out.